When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is Saturday, May the whatever the day. What day is it? The 18th. It's May the 18th, 2024. I'm Brisc Rubal, joined alongside Dave Archer. Today, we have a special guest with us. He doesn't really need an introduction, I don't think, because if you are in Goons, you probably know the man who has single-handedly destroyed HiSec, at least in the minds of the HiSec players, and that is Joe Painter, the head of the Ministry of Love. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Well, good. How are you doing today, Mr. Rubal?
Dave, you are looking very svelte. I see you have a new desktop background, which is nothing. The blackness of space.
I know.
Not
it's
bad.
Great. It's nothing here. Well,
there you go. You never have to clean your room again. It's great.
I know. It's great. I can be lazy. Low
so
effort.
To start the show off today, we're going to get the bad news out of the way. We are live right now from 1DQ, where we are in the midst of holding a Sino Vigil, yet another Sino Vigil, for a member of Goons Forum who has passed away. This was for Patrick Gattereau, a.k.a. Patrick Miller. He was a member of ADFU, Asteroid Farmers Unlimited, but before that, he was a member of the Bastion, and he was a good friend. We have a lot of friends on this show, especially the Meta Show, when we constantly get people giving us information, passing on information, telling us things that are important, telling us things that are happening, telling us when we're doing a good thing, when we're doing a bad thing. I've been talking to Patrick. He was a good friend for years. Back when I was in it, back when we had just started doing the Meta Show, I have 4 years worth of conversations with him. And it came to our attention last week that he passed away during a medical procedure. And the result is, yet again, EVE Online has lost a very important part of its community. So we are here with our friends from ADFU, the rest of us from the Initiative, from the Imperium, from the Bastion, all the former members that were friends with Patrick who have arrived on scene. Probably one of the bigger Sino Vigils I've seen around here in a while. I hate these because it means somebody in our community has passed away. But at the same time, I love these because it shows me how much this community matters to each other, how much we all matter to each other. I know this is not going to be the last Sino Vigil that we do. This may be the last Sino Vigil while I am hosting this show, because this is my second to last show. But regardless, I hope that everybody, wherever you are, if you're in Goons, you're in the Imperium, that you take a minute, raise a glass, say goodbye to our friend Patrick, and light a Sino here on 1DQ if you are around. Now, that out of the way, and we're going to have the Sino Vigil behind us the entire time, so it's never going to be completely out of the way. We're going to talk about a couple of things on the show this week, and I wanted to start by highlighting something that I have to laugh about. So, we in Goons are very good about promoting our stuff. We love to get out front, and whenever we do a video, we put it on the Meta Show. We talk about stuff on the Meta Show. We do things, and we throw them out there. And I fucked up. One of my dear friends put together an excellent video talking about the last fights that we had with Horde that ended in the Forticopter dying in Abazon. And he asked me to do the voiceover, and I did it, and he put it up, and then I totally forgot to kind of tell everybody. And guess who reminded me? Fucking Gobbins. Because Gobbins pinged out this video before I did. So I feel like kind of a douchebag. Because I don't like it when
Even I
Gobbins
knew
pings
about
out
the video.
our stuff. Exactly. Even Dave feels bad for me. So I want to show this video because it's a pretty good video, and I got to give credit to my dear friend TD, Tranquility Dawn, who put this together. We're going to show the video. You can watch it. It's a good little review of what happened in Amazon. I think it's kind of fun. Gobbins liked it. So, hey, you know, this is probably a pretty even-handed video. Anyway, so here is the video. We're going to watch this, and then we're going to talk about the main thing I want to talk about during the show this week, which is CCP's sneaky little anti-ganking patch that they are about to put up. But here is a video that Tranquility Dawn put out, and I will put a link to the video in the chat when it's over. On May 2nd, 2024, the Imperium tried one last time to stop the Amazon Forticopter from being deleted by Gobbins. The Fortizar, on a key jump freighter route between Delve and Jeddah, had fallen into Horde sights months ago. Given the high chance of a fight on this final timer, Imperium dreads had been moving into position all afternoon. Horde and Fraternity did the same, Horde pinging for a gold pen op, their highest priority form-up. Dave Archer led the Imperium Rogue Fleet, with Imperium Executor Asher Elias leading the Raven Navy issues, alongside a Zealot fleet from the Initiative. Horde flew Nightmares and Rogues alongside Fraternity Ravens and full broadsides Tempest fleet issues. Horde opened the fight by jumping long-range dreads into range, and then bringing in their subcaps for defense. Imperium subcap fleets then sprung into action. Dave Archer led his Rogues in to start shooting enemy dreads.
Boosters, hold until you see our tethers go. Hold until you see our tethers go. Secondary target WO in the Naglafar. Secondary target WO in the Naglafar. Secondary will be WI in the Naglafar, but shoot WO. All fire on WO. Boosters green. Tertiary target KI. Lachesis, point the Archon. Move on to OI in the Naglafar. OI in the Naglafar. Give me 2 cycles of prop. 2 cycles of prop.
Imperium Dread FC Zintage called for long-range dreads at first to match Horde. Horde quickly counter-dropped short-range dreads. Zintage made the call for Imperium Dreads to ensure, undock, and jump to the Sino. On landing, the Imperium Dread sieged and started killing enemy dreadnoughts. Man, I wish I was here for this fight. This looks so much fun.
You're not there.
I wasn't there.
Primary is FOR. Secondary GRE in the Thanatos. GRE in the Chimera is tertiary target. Lachesis, lock up all hostile carriers within your range. Do not let them leave. Logi, alert me the second we start taking damage from hostile fleets. Fleet, once greed is dead, unlock all targets. Once greed is dead, unlock all targets.
crazy.
Tie-dye wasn't terrible either. It ran pretty well for me.
You can see right about now is when it started flipping. There's more red on the screen than the blue.
Tie-dye went well. It just was taking longer than usual, but everything was working.
Yeah, everything eventually went through.
Appreciate this part of the video, although obviously it's quiet and there's no voiceover here, but what you're seeing, you don't see this very often. This is what a dread pilot is doing live during one of these fights. A lot of it is just making sure you got your guns going on the right target, making sure you're nuding somebody, making sure you've got your cap boosters going, refilling your cap boosters from your fleet hangar because they're going to run out. And then just wait
After
until you
repeated
die.
drops and counter drops, it became clear that the Panda Fam forces had a significant advantage in dreads. Once the Imperium dread fleet was outnumbered more than 2 to 1, Zintage began the process of extraction, calling for Imperium dreads to siege red and jump out. Given this was a low-sec fight, extraction was far easier than in null-sec, where dread battles of this size almost invariably end in complete annihilation of the losing side. The Butcher's Bill showed the Imperium had killed 1.5 trillion ISK worth of Panda Fam and low-sec allied ships, for a loss of both the Fortizar and 2.3 trillion in ships. As Asher noted after the fight, you can't outskill nearly 2 times your numbers, but we did our damnedest. Until we meet again, Panda Fam and friends.
All right, so that's the video. I have to say, my only criticism of that video is he spelled pieces wrong at the end. And I told him that. I said, you got to fix that, but he didn't fix it. Anyway, it's fine. So that was a great video. I have to say, I have seen 10,000 EVE videos, like live gameplay videos. And what always drives me crazy is 99% of the time, they don't have a voiceover. There's no explanation. It's always done at 2 times speed with some ridiculous heavy metal bullshit in the back, like that's blaring out. And you're looking at this and you're like, what the hell is happening? I have no idea what is happening here. It's exactly, Higher Brand says it the best. EVE is generally boring to watch. So when you're doing something like this show or another stream or something like that, you got to punch up the drama. You got to explain what's happening, because those are the videos that people remember. And I got to give TD credit. This was a very good job of not making the giant mistakes that normally are made. But I know that he's got some things he's got to work on for next time. But I like that video, and I appreciate that he put it together, and I think it was a pretty interesting view of that fight. Dave, how'd you like it? We got to hear you live shot calling.
Oh, wow. It's interesting to actually hear me doing it because, of course, like I'm normally the one doing it. But I hate my voice. So it's like, I was a bit like, oh, really? And then I didn't realize I was pausing that long and calling targets, trying to concentrate on, because I'm very bad at reading letters and then saying them. So the amount of time I spend concentrating on next primary is this one.
But you know what I appreciate?
Yeah,
I appreciate how calm and cool and collected you are, because I think, at least in my opinion, the way the FC calls targets, how they express themselves when they're in the fleet, when they're leading and following orders, I think that's pretty solid. Like I want to be with the cool, collected guy who sounds like air traffic control, rather than the screaming guy who's like, all right, next target, all right, next target, all right, do this, like that to me, I'm just like, I can't take it. And maybe that's why I never went, or at least I went on a very small number of like ELO night fleets, but I would much rather have a cool, calm, and collected FC than anything else. That's my take. Anyway.
It's kind of the important thing, because if you're going really quick, people are going to miss what you say. And then with the person that you mentioned, he used to get irritated when people missed what he said. It's like, well, slow down a bit.
So that's why you have to repeat yourself 1,000 times, and that's fucking annoying too.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't help when you have a really thick accent when you're giving orders. Mm-hmm. Right? Not everyone can sound like me all the time. I'm just saying.
Or people with a bad microphone.
Or people with a bad microphone.
Fleets where somebody's mic is just not picking up half what they're saying. It's like,
God knows I have the worst microphone in the Imperium. At least that's what I'm told. So anyway. All right. So I want to show that video. That was, we talked about that fight 2 weeks ago. That was the Amazon, the last big Amazon fight. That was probably one of the biggest dread fights we've had in the last 5 years. And it was pretty solid. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Link to the video is here. Let me get it for you. I just had it up. What did I do with it? Here it is. There you go. You can check that out at your leisure. That was the video that we just showed. Now, moving on. We have another video in a minute that I'm going to show, which is the video from the Equinox discussion of the last...
On May 2nd.
The last bit of announcements that we have gotten about Equinox from CCP. What was that? Well, it was the announcement of the new ships. And that's why we have Joe Painter here with us today. So before we show that video, I want to, not a single one of you guys click that link. I'm trying to pancake cat the entire stream and nobody's biting. This is bullshit. Anyway, there is the actual link to the video. All right. No pancake cats from me today. So I want to set this up, pitch it to Joe, then we're going to watch the video, and then we're going to have a deeper conversation. One of the things that has been a thorn in the side of people for the longest time has been when CCP decides that they don't like how somebody plays the game. This, to me, gets frustrating because it happens quite often. And as much as I hated it, more than often than not, it happens to goons. We find something that we like, we blow it up to the point that everybody screams that it has to get nerfed, and CCP goes behind us and says, all right, well, we'll figure out a way to do it. And they tend not to come out and just say, you can't do this. They never just say, goons should stop doing this, or you can't do this, we're going to make this an exploit, or you're not allowed to do this anymore. They'll come up with creative ways to fix a larger problem that just happens to screw with the main guys who are doing things. And yes, I did say the frustrated word. I'm going to be in trouble with Mrs. Brisc. And I think more than anything, the ganking playstyle has been subject to a steady stream of nerfs for the last 5 years. But despite the fact that that's the case, there is still constant complaining. Globby says 15. Probably 15 is more accurate. Yes. Despite the fact that there have been constant nerfs for more than a decade to the ganking playstyle, which I think, frankly, is fundamental to the EVE community, the complaints never stop, and thus the nerfs never stop. And it gets really old, especially when you see the state of the ganking community today compared to what it was 5 years ago, compared to what it was 15 years ago. It's absolutely completely different. It's so much harder to do. And I don't say that as somebody from the outside looking in. I have been on fleets with Globby. I've been on fleets with Joe Painter. There is absolutely a ganking community. And they're fun. It's a fun part of EVE. But since all of these changes have gone through, and I'll let Joe talk about it when we get to that point, we've seen nothing but a steady diet of nerfs that have tried to make this a thing of the past. And that to me gets frustrating because I don't like it when CCP takes sand out of the sandbox, and that's kind of what they're doing. So Joe, I mean, give us a little background and then we'll watch this video and then we'll talk about these ships. But from your perspective as the head of Mini Love, one of the heads of Mini Love, you guys have been doing high-sec ganking for the longest time. It's only steadily gotten harder. What's the state of it right now?
So it's probably the worst spot it's ever been, but I mean, it's still around by no means. It's not gone completely. These days, a lot of times it's like no longer higher sec status ganking. You're mainly locked in this 0.5 chokehold systems. You're not able to move around that much. Like following targets, like from like 4-4 isn't really a thing anymore. I mean, it's doable, but it's a lot more restrictive than it used to be.
So started off, I'd say that the steady diet of nerfs has come down. There was a major one when CCP fixed the bumping issue, where in the past you could catch somebody, you could keep them from ever getting to a gate by constantly bumping. In that amount of time, you could bring in other people, you could bring in more assets,
form, etc.
Get a big fleet formed and be able to pick out any target that you want. That was nerfed. That caused some significant problems to the ganking community that made it much harder to do the types of ganks that they've done before.
Before that, you have things like the damage control change. So damage controls got half as effective, and every ship in the game got all bonuses from that. So that was a big increase to freighter EHP. What else stuff? Low slots on freighters at one point. Before that, it was rigs. So being able to change your freighter fit, that wasn't a thing before. Alphas are now all locked safety red. It wasn't that we were using alphas, but it's like something like a new player is never going to try to gank now, because you're not having, well, you're in that trial period where you're trying to kind of figure out what you want to do with EVE. If you're in high sec, and like that's kind of a prime point to kind of start ganking, especially like miners and stuff. Alphas safety locked red now. And again, that wasn't something like big multi-boxers weren't flying alphas. It's all new players. So just kind of stopping the inflow of gankers, and yeah.
And then you lost Nyarja, which was a big choke point system that ended up getting taken away when the Pochman thing came out. And then we're at the point we are today.
Yeah.
Constantly what CCP has done is nibble about the edges. They'll never come right out and say ganking is bad. In fact, they usually say the opposite. They say ganking is good. We don't have a problem with ganking. But at the same time that they say we don't have a problem with ganking, they constantly make these changes that have a negative impact on the ganking playstyle. Now, some of you obviously in the chat are out there. You've got this world's smallest violin playing for the gankers because people don't like them, and that's fair. I understand that. As someone who is ganking adjacent and friends with the gankers, I tend to be on their side. I feel like you got to have that constant destruction, and you don't want anywhere or anything in EVE to be safe. And I also, as a nullsec guy, want us to be able to directly impact the bad guys in nullsec's logistic routes that all have to go through high sec. And I want to be able to hit them when we can to make it harder for them to resupply and move stuff around. So for us, that's great. And it's not a question of say ganking, because everybody's going to die you guys are going to die when you do this. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I think there's a difference between these like minor adjustments they've done in the past too, and something like this. Like this is just straight power scaling to the nth degree. Vastly more powerful than anything else they've released before.
And that is what we're going to get into now. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
On the note of ganking some of the stuff real quick that's in chat at the moment, I agree to some extent with what somebody said, though. It should be some systems where you can't gank. Just so new
Like
players
places
don't
like
get nuked.
There are.
new player systems, that's fine. I mean, even already, if you kill new players in a new player system, you can get reported, and CCP will give you warnings at the end.
But somebody said it killing people that are moving their stuff about ruins the game. This game is all about risk. There should be, once you're no longer a new player, no point of this game where you are completely free from risk.
100%.
And
you consent to PvP when you undock. Go ahead, Dave.
And a lot of complaining I see in places comes about ganking, comes from the people that actually have like the ability to jump directly from Jita to pretty much their space. So it doesn't ever affect, you know?
Right.
So
and that's what frustrates me,
essentially.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, the concept that high sec is supposed to be a space where you're safe is completely anathema to the entire point of the game. There is nowhere in EVE where you are supposed to be 100% safe. Nowhere in space. You undock, even if you're in high sec. Yeah, Concord is there, and they will kill the guys that gank you, but they're not going to stop you from getting ganked. That's the whole point.
They're there to get revenge, essentially.
Correct. It's a punishment. It's not a prevention. And that's part of the fun.
Because EVE's all about adapting.
So Eden Trade says, moving those assets, they are moving them to do something with them in another region. You're stopping them from creating content where they're going with the stuff. They are becoming the content for the people who are doing the ganking. That's the thing. I always say this when we're streaming and get killed. Some days you find content. Other days you are the content. And that's the whole point.
And really, you should use jump freighters.
Exactly. I mean, and there are ways around it. There are very, very safe ways to move things around, like jump freighters, that you're not going to have to worry about going through these gates and getting blown up. And that's why, frankly, Joe and the guys, mainly, all they kill these days are Tech 1 freighters. Many times it's Tech 1 freighters used by people who are autopiloting, which is breaking every single rule of the game. Don't fly what you can't afford to lose. Don't not be present.
Trade guy in chat is salty because we killed 2 of his push-X contracts.
Eden Trade. How about you tell me where you live outside of high sec, and Joe will kill your contracts, and I'll come and kill the shit you're putting them on.
Yeah, but you have collateral, dude. We created content. You got your money back.
Right. It's part of the fun.
Exactly. Like, why do you do you care?
Sure it's insured. There you go.
The only people it's inconvenient doing the job.
It's inconvenient, but that's part of the game. That's part of the game. All right. So moving forward, what happened now? So why are we talking about this now? Well, CCP, as part of the new Equinox expansion, announced a number of things that we like. Things like the Skinner tool is going to let you make your own skins. We're going to see changes to PI. We have these new Upwell structures that'll be that are going to hopefully bring new content to nullsec. There's the ability to, I guess, customize your space is how they've been putting it. That is going to be put in with these new iHub upgrades. They're going to finally merge the TCU and the iHub into a sovereignty Upwell structure that does everything, which I've been advocating for years. But then they snuck in this, and that is new ships. We never complain about new ships on this show. If you guys recall, my former co-host loved to say, can we get some fucking spaceships in the fucking spaceship game? So we almost never complain about new ships, except when they're like this. So let's watch this video and then we'll talk about this and why these new ships are kind of a problem.
For the Equinox expansion, we're introducing 4 brand new Upwell themed haulers into EVE. These include the Squall, the new base Tech 1 hauler, the Deluge, an elusive Tech 2 blockade runner variation of the Squall, the Torrent, a hardy deep space transport variation, and the Avalanche, an XL-sized freighter with a matching XL-sized hull. All 4 of these new ships feature a new large infrastructure hold. This hold will be able to store several items related to owning and upgrading your space, such as the brand new orbital skyhook, the Metanox moon drill, the new reagents, sovereignty structures, sovereignty upgrades, Upwell structures, deployables, fuel, and more. Additionally, all 4 of these ships will feature a significant amount of missile firepower for their size, allowing them to fight back and deter those who are looking to ransack them for their valuable cargo. There are a number of things that make these ships unique and desirable, starting with the Squall. It's intended to be an affordable entry-level hauler for infrastructure and the new reagents. We're aiming for it to cost a bit more than a Tech 1 cruiser hull, and it will have the cargo capacity that most other specialized haulers currently have with a special infrastructure hold. It also features roughly the same hit points and firepower that a Tech 1 cruiser currently has, allowing it to fight off smaller ships attempting to interdict its valuable cargo, or also contribute meaningfully to an encounter while being brought alongside a Skyhook raiding fleet. The Deluge Blockade Runner is a Tech 2 variation of the Squall, and it trades some missile firepower and cargo capacity for the ability to use a Covert Ops cloaking device. With significant improvements to its mobility and warp speed, it's the perfect choice for maintaining your infrastructure on the fringes of your space or operating behind enemy lines. The Torrent Deep Space Transport is the big brother of the Deluge, and it too is a Tech 2 variation of the Squall. The Torrent, however, trades agility and top speed for a significant improvement in hit points, a larger infrastructure hold, more firepower, a fleet hangar, and huge overheating bonuses to defensive modules, propulsion modules, and energy neutralizers. Last but certainly not least, the gigantic Avalanche is the first freighter in EVE to feature high power slots and has enough missile firepower to match most battleships. The Avalanche additionally features a gigantic infrastructure hold, the unique ability to fit capital shield flex hardeners, and an even bigger missile damage bonus for auto-targeting missiles. When designing these ships, we obviously wanted them to be appealing and useful to those of you who do logistics gameplay and maintain alliance and solve infrastructure, but we know that's a rather small niche, so we also wanted to make sure they were exciting for a wide range of players. With that in mind, we gave the ships missile launchers with a large bonus to damage, distinguishing them significantly from other industrial ships currently that already have the capability to fight back, such as the Procurer, Orca, Rubal, and Nereus. Since these almost entirely rely on drones, our aim was to make these feel exciting and powerful enough so that they can have an impact in small gangs and not just be the space pinata with all the valuable goods inside. We also wanted them to be exciting for regular smaller industrialists and not just large organizations, so we expanded the infrastructure hold to be able to include everything you would need even for smaller industry tasks. For example, fuel and planetary commodities can be placed inside the bay, so if you're looking for an upgraded Epiful or a ship to carry your PI, all of these ships should excite you. The blueprints for the Squall Hauler and the Avalanche Freighter will be available for purchase in all Upwell Consortium member NPC stations when Equinox launches. The Deluge Blockade Runner and the Torrent Deep Space Transport will need to be invented from blueprint copies of the Squall. For the invention jobs, players will also need new Upwell Starship Engineering data cores, which are available in the 4 Empire Factional Warfare Militia LP stores. Additionally, constructing these new Tech 2 ships will require new Upwell components, the blueprints for which can be purchased from all Upwell Consortium member NPC stations, and they use a mix of all the racial components that currently exist. I'm really excited about these ships, and we hope you are too, whether you're going to be hauling your own or your corporation's valuable resources, or hauling the loot and corpses of your overconfident victims. We cannot wait to see what creative fittings you come up with when Equinox launches.
All right, that was my boy Suetonia, aka CCP Kestrel, who did probably had a lot to do about putting these together. So, well, why is Joe Painter here? Why is Brisc upset? Why is this anti-ganking? Well, let me tell you, and then Joe can go into more detail, okay? The Avalanche, the biggest one of these freighters, is so much better at everything than every existing freighter in the game that it's not even funny. And if the Avalanche launches with the current stats that it has, no one is going to do anything but get rid of all of the freighters that they've got and get into these Avalanches. So for instance, and Joe will talk about this in a second, a max tanked Obelisk. My wife loves the Obelisk. She thinks it looks like a giant refrigerator. She likes to see them die on gates when we go ganking. A max tanked Obelisk, which is the tankiest freighter, gets about 620k EHP, 360,000 meters cubed cargo space, okay? A T2 fit Avalanche, which also has missiles, just saying.
The missiles aren't even that part.
And it doesn't even matter. But there are missiles on this thing, so it can shoot back. A T2 fit, not even a blinged out fit, a T2 fit Avalanche has 702,000 EHP and 550,000 cubic meters of space.
In the regular cargo hold.
In the regular cargo hold, plus a 3 million cubic meter infrastructure hold to hold stuff like PI and moon goo and all the other stuff that we would bring in. It is absolutely insane. And if you take that out, and that's T2, that is the base, that is the standard, boring, cheapest shit. If you bling this out and you max tank it, this thing can get up to 1.6 million EHP, that is Siege Dread territory, with 550,000 cargo.
That's with the cargo lows too, so it's not even.
That's with cargo lows. That's not even with shield hull lows or with bulkheads or whatever you want to put in there. You can get to 2.2 million if you fit bulkheads. So at the end of and that's still with 265,000 extra cargo. So throw in that it can do 2,500 DPS, and I mean you've got a ship that is so significantly, and you can do the MWD warp thing, that is so significantly better than every other hauler that it is absolutely crazy. Joe, what do you think the impact of this thing is going to be on what you guys do?
Well, so the issue is like in Uedama, so like a pulled 0.5, yeah, theoretically it's scalable. It's like 45 Talos, which is like 7 build down the drain to kill it, which is a lot of ISK. So 45 Talos to kill it in a pulled 0.5, which is like best case scenario with the max tank fit. But then you have issues with like around Uedama, or not around Uedama, like around Jita, it's unkillable. It's going to take 400 catalysts or like 100 Talos. So you're dropping 15 billion Talos to kill one ship in high sec. It just like the risk to reward ratio just makes 0 sense. And in its current state, the build cost is the same price as a freighter, if not less.
The same price as a freighter.
It's
What's
just
the average freighter going for right now, Joe?
with like
What's it going for now?
2.5 bill, something like that.
So to kill this with 45 Talos, you are essentially trading 6.5 billion ISK worth of Taloses to kill a 2.5 billion ISK freighter.
Yeah, it's just like, it's obvious that they're not designing it with kind of this impact and high sec in mind. It's trying to be too much at once. That's what it feels like.
Dave, what do you think about this?
Well, I've been busy all week, so I watched the video just before we went live. And the tank is ridiculous, and the cost, because I just checked the tank on my Archon, for instance, which is quite blingy. That thing has more tank than my carrier. Then you add, I saw in the video, it's got quite a bit of damage as well with those heavy missile launchers.
It's broken more than just high sec.
What they've essentially done is made a freighter that is better than any battleship. So you can kill something, you can loot it, and you can sod off with your buddies. Like, I don't know about you folks, but when you've been going around in your freighter and stuff, doing your industry, the last thing I thought is, gee, I wish I had a bit more tank or a bit more ammo for my guns. Or guns. You know? If you wanted to shoot something, get something that shoots something. You don't need a freighter that shoots something and can tank like more than.
I don't even think the shooting thing's an issue. Like, I'm fine being shot at while ganking. That's not the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I would say part of the thing that I think Dave is alluding to, and this is something that I think is legit. One of the weird things, it's always, at least to me, has been the philosophy that CCP has of, we don't want to make it possible for you to do all things with one ship. You know, we have specialized ships for a reason. You want some jack of all trades ships that you can, like the T3Ds and T3Cs that can do different things well, but you got to give up. There are always going to be some kind of, trade-offs that make these things better or worse. This thing, Wait, these freighters can mine? Sure, why not? I mean, I guess
No,
maybe
it's
not.
only
If there's no turrets, it's
missile.
not a turret. It's
Yeah,
only
it's just
missiles.
missiles.
So all right, so
Yeah.
that
No mining.
no drones. So I guess they
found
can't
something
mine.
they can't do.
They can't mine.
It
But
could
you
fit a
could
full rack of
run-
newts.
You could
Capsule.
run havens with this thing. You could run crab beacons with this thing. You know, at the end of the day, this could be a ratting ship.
And I think that's kind of
And-
how CCP balanced it in mind. Is they
It's-
were thinking about the null sec, the low sec environment.
It's gonna get used for people.
And I think
I guarantee it. This will be a PvP ship.
Yeah.
Why would it's just hilarious? I mean, imagine bringing a fleet of these to kill a abandoned structure where you can have everybody in a giant freighter that can kill the structure itself and then grab all the stuff and be gone. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, and yeah. Imagine James is right. Imagine how many missiles you can bring. Like, you're never gonna have to worry about having a fuel truck on a fleet because God knows you can put enough of these in there. So what are T1 freighters going to be used for in nullsec? Moving keep stars and moving, uncompressed Veldspars about it.
No, not even.
No, this can move a keep star.
This can move a keep star. Jesus,
It can fit
It can fit
3.
three of them. Yeah, three.
In
keep
that
stars.
thing you showed, it
It
showed
can
them having a
fit-
keep star and a Satio.
3 keep stars.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it can be bridged. So, like, you're trying to evade someone, you're just going to bridge it in with 3 keep stars. Boom, boom, boom. You got 3 keep stars anchoring at the same time. Like,
Plus
that's insane.
550.
And I don't
all
think-
the-
tackles that thing, it's going to kill it. Because I just looked up the video real quick to get the fitting. 1.3k DPS with the bit they had there.
Yeah, 2 damage lows, 1.3k DPS with.
That is ridiculous.
This is to me, looking at this ship, I can't see a downside to it. There's no
And then-
trade-off here. It's better than
Then-
everything. It can
Yeah,
do
90%
everything.
persists. So it catches
And 90%
reps way better than a normal freighter. So like the Osprey multi-boxers that fly around high sink, like it's way more effective repping those. It's just a straight buff in every angle. And there's like no downsides to it. So it's like they're introducing a new class of ships that just completely replaces another, and it adds too much while not like making any trade-offs whatsoever.
And from a nullsec perspective, it's got the jump fatigue reduction as well.
Yep, like every other industrial.
So you could theoretically rock up with this, have a few Oracle boosters and Logi with their drones as well, have this as your DPS shit, and you're laughing in a Fortizar defense, aren't you? Like, it's ridiculous.
And imagine this in a wormhole. I mean, this would be the greatest log-off trap ship of all time. I feel like this is the kind of thing that I appreciate what Suetonia was trying to do. I appreciate the fact that they were trying to find a way to make hauling fun and to create new ships that people are going to want to use. It'd be great. Can it fit through a
They just need to
wormhole?
remove one or two of those just like aspects to kind of bring it in line. It's just
Mass
too much at once
is
at the current moment.
960 million. So I would say, yeah, it can fit. It can fit in a wormhole. So, I mean, at the end of the day, why do we care about HiSec? Because HiSec is the heart of the game. It's fundamental to what everybody does. Like, that's where the trading markets are. That's where you have to go to get certain types of material that you can't mine in nullsec anymore, or you can't get in lowsec. Everybody's got to run through HiSec. It's the way the game was designed. I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is a game where every part of the game is connected to the other, and that was part of the design. So, assuming what I think is likely, if this goes through the way that it is right now with no trade-offs, that it is the best ship in the game to do a lot of things, then every single one of us is going to be chasing after this ship instantly as soon as it's in the game, and it's going to replace T1 freighters almost everywhere. And so that's going to kill the T1 freighter market, and it's going to make what Joe does much, much harder. I don't think that's a good thing. Dave, what do you think?
I think it's terrible. It just eradicates so many different things. And I saw a comment in the chat about it being auto-targeted missiles. It still gets a 10% bonus per level to any missile damage.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
even if you don't put
torpedoes and shit.
auto-targeting,
Yeah.
it's going to be stupid. And just as you said, the only drawback is its big hold is restricted to what it can carry, but they've made it so it can carry moon goo and EI, and the only thing it pretty much can't carry is other ships. Which
I'm surprised there's
Like,
not a
it's
bowhead
eradicated
version of this, right? I mean, why not?
exactly, yeah.
Well, that's the
They
thing.
may as
So,
well
like
make
the
an
bowhead,
up-round ship.
it's significantly less EHP. Very similar premise, but like way less HP than a bowhead or avalanche.
I have a feeling they're going to
mean-
release it, see what they've done, and nerf it.
Well, but the problem is, and I guarantee, this is what happens every single time. They release something that's totally broken. It becomes the new meta. It's the meta for 6 months, to the point that everybody, even the newest people in the game, start training into it. All those new people get into it, and then they nerf it. And it pisses the new people that just got into it off. Everybody that's been playing the game for a while goes and finds the next thing. And then the ship gets nerfed so hard that nobody uses it anymore, and it's back to being useless. I mean, this is the standard thing. Like the pendulum shifts. It is great for the longest time until suddenly it's not. And then it becomes, exactly. It starts off amazing. It starts off like the Cerberus, and then it gets nerfed, and then it's nothing again. And then the Munin is the thing, and then the Munin gets nerfed, and then it's back to the Cerb, and then it's back to, it's the standard thing that they do. We all can remember a time when there was one ship that dominated everything. Whether it was the Drake, whether it was the Gila, whether it was the, which was the T3C, T3D that everybody had. The ugly one. My brain is fried.
Sveeple?
Sveeple. When it was a Sveeple, everybody had it. Then it was everybody had Rorquals. Now lately it was everybody's got ENIs. It just became a thing. Like there's always that. And then the response to that is always, well, we got to nerf that ship because it's too popular. It's crowding everything out. Loki is great. Well, it's jack of all trades. We can't have that. It gets nerfed in the ground, and then boom, we never see that ship again. Dave, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
I've forgotten now. Oh, this also isn't a change that just affects nullsec. Somebody said it's goons crying, but this affects everybody. Low sec people could be rocking around in this. They ain't going to get bubbled, are they? So they're just going to, cruise about in these things and kill shit. It's even better in low sec with the auto-targeting missiles. Honestly, just sit on a gate. But those gate guns ain't going to kill you, and your auto-targeting missiles are going to shoot whatever tries to lock.
Now, of course, we're gonna hear the standard: get good, harden the fuck up, adapt or die, that type of stuff, and that's fine. And I'm not going to argue against that because that is 100% true. But now is the opportunity for us to at least point out, hey, before you put this in the game and cause a lot of damage that will take years to repair if it ever happens, maybe we just take a little step back. Just saying.
Because I will happily adapt and get over it and do a fleet of these and go kill stuff.
I can't wait to see.
From my
I mean,
point of view,
if these go in, I can't wait to see a Dave Archer pinging for avalanches.
Exactly.
That'd be great. That'll be great. All right.
It'd be a landslide victory.
Total landslide victory. Just a fleet of these and one fax. Yeah, I think you'll be okay. 1 or 2 faxes. All right.
As long as they can't be DD'd.
Moving on, just briefly, I wanted to highlight one story that I wish Mark Resurrectus was still here for. If you guys have been paying attention, the last week or so has seen an end to the wormhole war. And I have to say, it kind of ended with a bit of a whimper. The end result of a war that was started by Singularity Syndicate against Laserhawks ends with overwhelming Laserhawks victory, Singularity Syndicate not only lost the war, but is disbanded. As you can see here, Hawks declared that Syndicate is no longer welcome in wormholes and will continue to burn every single thing we own. Cyrus is not interested in K-Space or retiring, so the only thing left is to fight a guerrilla war until he burns out or Hawks changes their stance. For everybody else, thanks. Hope you enjoyed everything. We're out of here. But a pleasure flying with you all. Synda's Wormhole Corp is over for the time being. Now, there is a lot that went into this war, and it's way too much for us to get into in the last 5 minutes of the show. And frankly, I would love if I could get somebody like Mark or Cyrus or one of the folks that was involved in this online. So if you're watching, shoot me a DM. I'd love to have you guys come on the show and talk about it. But the bottom line was Singularity Syndicate became one of the biggest players in wormhole space over the last couple of years. They came in and filled the gap that existed after Hard Knocks kind of went away. The biggest group to oppose them, the number one top guys, the guys that owned a ton of the C6s and everything, was Laserhawks. They became the big group, the big boogeyman in wormhole space. Singularity Syndicate has been on the show before. We've talked about different wars that they've done, different evictions that they've done. They started putting together a PandaFam style coalition that included in it and some other K-Space groups, which is verboten in wormhole space. You do not bat phone the nullsec guys. That is not okay. And it cost them a lot of their allies during the course of this war. At the same time, Hard Knocks, which was almost pretty much defunct there, we had one active player, I think, who was still hanging around, saw finally there's a big war, and did exactly what happened with Goons when we sounded the horn of Goon door back during World War B2, and all of their old players came back. The result was Sind thought they had this great, massive coalition of the willing that was willing to go in there and stomp on Laserhawks. Their casus belli actually was kind of a joke. They basically demanded a bunch of C6s from Laserhawks, and Laserhawks in response was like, okay, which was not the answer they were expecting. They thought they were going to be told no, and started attacking anyway, even though Hawks basically said, yeah, we'll give you what you want. Which I think is just, it's just funny. Like when you're trying to set up a situation and the last thing you expect is these guys to say, okay, sure. And they do it anyway, but you already gave the orders and you have to attack. So anyway, to make a long story short, the war keeps going. Sind has spies inside Laserhawk's top echelon. They find the spy. They then have spies in Sind's group, and some of the folks that are in Sind's group don't like the fact that the nullsec guys are involved, and boom, what should have been and what was a slam dunk war that everybody thought this was over, to the point that I have to say, some of the stuff that Sind said and did during this war was like the height of hubris. There was a time right around the beginning, after the first month or so, when Sind sent this to the Hawks leadership, and this is what it said. It said, given how this war is going, this will be the only offer we will give you. Settled transfer every single C6 mining hole you have. We'll spare your home, give an appropriate number of C6s so you're not entirely bereft. Make an agreement with no log-off traps, no rage rolling, no C6, no bashing of farms. Or you can go to option 2, which is continue fighting, lose the rest of your C6 base, see the entire coalition in your home. It might take us a month, but it's clear we can do it. Let us know. Hawk's response to that was, anybody want to guess? Get fucked. Joe Painter is correct. Yeah. That was exactly their response. And the result was they started bashing, they started fighting. And slowly but surely, thanks to a lot of what appears to be unforced errors on the Sind part. Yeah, exactly. Nuts. A lot of unforced errors on the Sind part. Their coalition started falling apart. Some of the wormhole guys were very upset that there were K-spacers involved. And the result was, instead of winning the war and forcing Laserhawks out of the C6s, they lost the war. Laserhawks is now doing to Singularity Syndicate what Singularity Syndicate said they were going to do to Laserhawks. And Wormhole Space is being confronted with something that hasn't been true in the longest time, and that is there's one major group that controls almost everything, and that is Laserhawks. So I would love to have a more in-depth discussion of this with the players involved, because this is a great story. There's a lot of fun Eve shit in here. But obviously, Dave and Joe and I are not the right people to do it. So anyway, hopefully, maybe on my last show, maybe at some future show, we'll have an in-depth discussion about the wormhole stuff, because I think it's pretty cool. But in the meantime, we're out of time, guys. That's it. We've done our hour.
All right.
Joe is here.
Last
Dave is
episode?
here.
Next
That's
week.
it. So this episode is in the can. Ladies and gentlemen, today is my penultimate show. One last show next week, May the 25th. Mark it on your calendars. This will be my last meta show as the primary anchor. We'll be passing the baton, the torch, whatever you want to call it, over to our boy Dave Archer, who will be taking over control of the show. Again, I will be staying on as an executive producer. That means I can come on whenever I feel like it, but I'm not going to be here every week. It is Memorial Day, so I'm hoping that everybody will be enjoying at least in the United States, will be enjoying their 3-day weekend, and will come and watch the show. I'm going to do my best not to cry. It's going to be touch and go, I'm sure, because this show has been a part of my life for the last 5 years, but I'm happy to be moving on because it's time. So I hope that you will join us next week for my last episode. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We haven't talked about it. I don't know who the guests are going to be. I don't know what we're going to show. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. We'll figure that out during the rest of the week. But for those of you who are here right now, thank you to Joe Painter, Dave, for joining us. Thank you to everybody that tuned in this week. I appreciate it. I hope that you learned a little bit about what's going on with this Equinox expansion. If you are not here and you want to be a part of the Patrick Goddard Sino Vigil, come to 1DQ. It's going on for the next couple of hours. The fleet is up on Ranger Gamma, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you out there in space, because I am here right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Meta Show for May the 18th, 2024. I'm Brisc Rubal, alongside Dave Archer with Joe Painter, our guest. Thanks for watching, and you stay classy. Do eat.